This video will cover some of the strategies and resources that you can use while preparing for the MCAT. For more information on the actual material that will be on the test itself, check out the test material video. When you are getting ready to start preparing for the MCAT, you have to first ask yourself two important questions. First, whether you want to prepare for it while you are still an undergrad or take a gap year. Now, I go into the pros and cons of a gap year in a separate video, so I won't be talking much about this question during this video. Basically, you just need to ask yourself which strategy here would make the most sense with how much free time you have during college, and whether or not you think you need a bunch of time committed to studying for the MCAT. Next, the question that will really be discussed during this video is asking yourself if you would rather self-study or use a specific MCAT program to prepare. There are pros and cons to either of these that we will discuss, but just keep in mind these two options in the back of your mind. To start, self-studying might be a little difficult, but if you follow these tips, I bet it could be a big success for you. First and foremost, you have to hold yourself accountable. The hardest thing about self-study is the fact that there's no grade or assignments attached to anything. Any studying or practice you do is entirely up to you, and there is no immediate incentive to study hard or do well on practice questions. That is why holding yourself accountable is key here. You also need to set realistic goals for yourself. If you are someone that can't sit still for hours and hours, don't plan on spending the whole day studying. Also, don't try to rush the studying process. If you're going to try and cram everything you will need to know about chemistry in a week, I can promise you it will not go well. One thing that might help you, though, is creating a physical calendar or schedule that you can stick to so that you are keeping yourself accountable. Scheduling assignments or practice tests at the end of each week could be really beneficial as well, since it gives you a chance to practice what you learned. Supplementation of your own study materials with online resources might also be a key factor in having success with this strategy. There are so many online resources, and we will talk about a few of them soon, that can help you with active learning. What is active learning? Well, it's different from just sitting and memorizing something. It's applying what you have already learned in a way you may not have seen before. Basically, it's like using your knowledge on chemistry to answer a practice question that you haven't seen before. Which leads me to the most important aspect of any study strategy when preparing for the MCAT, and you will hear me say it a lot this video. Practice tests, practice tests, practice tests. Not only will this be a great source of active learning, but if you remember from my overview video, the test itself lasts more than 6 hours long. I won't lie to you, it's brutal. And the more you practice it now and improve your test-taking endurance, the better you will be in the long run. Also, it will give you a really good sense of how you are doing, as if you were taking the real thing. Let's dive into some of the online resources that you can utilize while you self-study. This is a really cool one that I just found and I wanted to mention, called MCAT Self-Prep. Also, all of the resources I give you in this video will have links attached that will take you right to their page. Anyways, this source provides all things that you see here on the screen for free. That's right, completely for free. It's about the only MCAT prep resource I have ever seen that offers nearly as much as this for free, and the only way that the program actually makes money is if you want to upgrade to a premium and get extra benefits like tutoring. But you might want to take advantage of this resource, as it might be the only thing out there that won't charge your wallet. Anki is something that if you aren't acquainted with now, you absolutely will be when you get to medical school. This is a resource like 90% of med students and residents use to study for their exams. It's basically a program that gives you flashcard-style questions and answers, but uses an algorithm that helps you keep it in long-term memory. When you see a question, it will automatically show you the same question again based on how difficult you thought answering it was. You are also able to add your own cards and edit existing cards based on whatever your study needs are. The link I've included is a specific deck of flashcards called Anki, which uses the Anki program that you can download for the MCAT. Downloading Anki is free, but if you want access to this specific deck in particular, you will have to make either monthly payments of like $5 or a lifetime purchase of just over $200. Shifting gears towards something called UWorld, this was a very popular resource for a handful of my current classmates when they were studying for the MCAT. UWorld is a bit pricier than most third-party resources, but the detail of questions and the depth that they go to explain why answer choices are right and wrong is unmatched. Take a look here at this sample question that UWorld has posted on their front page. This is a very typical question you might see on the MCAT, and they go in extreme detail explaining how the mechanism of skeletal muscle contraction happens at the sarcoplasmic reticular level. Also, notice how each answer choice has a percentage next to it. UWorld supplies you with the percentage of people that selected each answer choice, so it gives you an idea of what other people were thinking. UWorld offers more than 3,000 detailed questions just like this one if you choose to purchase it. UWorld is also another resource that a lot of us med students continue to use just like Anki. So if you want to get used to a resource that you might end up using a lot in the future, maybe the MCAT is a good place to start. I felt like I also had to mention the AAMC since they are the ones that run the thing. In addition to a singular graded and ungraded practice test that they offer for free, you can check out this link for additional resources they offer. AAMC focuses a lot on active learning, which I told you was the most important way you can be studying, so definitely consider checking some of these out. I know some of them may be more expensive than you would like, but unfortunately, pretty much every resource you come across when it comes to studying for the MCAT will have a price tag. However, this is by no means a comprehensive list of the third-party resources you can use. There are many, many more. There's another one called Sketchy that draws out pictures as you learn information to help you visualize everything and make it stick in your head. There's another one called Pixorize that does a similar concept. There are dozens of resources that you can supplement your self-studying with if you choose to. You just have to find the one that best suits your needs. If I had to wrap up talking about self-study with some pros and cons, I'd say that the first pro is the abundance of resources. There are so many options out there which allows you to really search for exactly what can help a certain weak point of yours in regards to the MCAT. However, one downside is, like I said, they all have a price tag. Well, except MCAT self-prep, so definitely check that one out. Another pro is the flexibility of your own schedule. When you study on your own terms, you get to control exactly when and how that happens. You don't have to worry about deadlines, you don't have to worry about meeting a tutor at a specific time, you can just study around other things already on your schedule. However, that also comes with the con of it's harder to stay accountable. When there aren't specific deadlines or lectures or meetings, it's hard to keep yourself focused and on schedule. That's why I said earlier you might have some success if you make a physical calendar and try to stick by it. And although most of the third-party resources have a price tag, they are by no means as expensive as some of the programs we will talk about in a minute. While they might not be as in-depth or personalized to each student, they are a very attractive option if you feel like you can't afford some of the other things out there. Now, let's say you aren't really sure if leaving everything up to yourself is a good idea. If you need a well put together, thorough, and personalized guide to prepare for the MCAT, then maybe consider one of these programs. First off, we have Kaplan, which is actually how I prepared for my MCAT, so I can speak a little more in detail about it. I know the prices may seem crazy, but if you want to do a program that will cover absolutely everything you need to know and get some great tutoring along the way, that's about what it will cost you. It gives you the ability to attend lectures, ask professionals questions, and get one-on-one tutoring, which was like a lifesaver for me. There were so many topics I needed help with, and the tutoring was great because you get to control what the focus is on. They also offer in-person classes, which might be helpful if you are someone that needs to be in a physical class in order to focus. If this sounds like something you are interested in learning more about, definitely check out the link. The number of resources they give you is actually very impressive, and I know it helped me get my score up. Next, we have some more programs that I never personally took, but I can assume that they work similar to Kaplan. Here is the pricing for one called the Princeton Review, which is a pretty well-known program. Again, you can take a look at what the offers are and what prices are attached to them, but Princeton might be a good option for you if the only thing you are missing is the tutoring element. Let's say you already have a bunch of practice questions and feel like you don't need extra lectures, you have the option to just pay hourly for tutoring with Princeton. Another option is Blueprint Prep, which again offers similar things to the other two. There really is no right answer as to which one you pick. They are all vetted programs with lots of data to support their results. I can only speak personally about Kaplan though, as it is the one myself and most of my friends ended up doing. I'm giving you the links to go check out the programs and read for yourself what they are offering because maybe certain aspects of one might catch your eye. I'm also only mentioning these three because they are the big three ones that are well respected. Any other program isn't as well vetted and doesn't really have the data to back up their claims. So if you want to try a very fleshed out program that will help you with everything about the MCAT, I would stick to one of these three. Feel free to do your own research though. Like I said, these specialized programs are incredibly personalized to you and offer some great tutoring with people that literally take the real tests for fun. However, I know it's super expensive and that is definitely a drawback. Also, it may not end up being worth the cost in your opinion. If you spend thousands of dollars on one of these programs and only increase your total score by 2 points, you might wonder if it's all worth it. I will say though that sometimes those 2 points could matter, and there are people out there willing to do anything just to raise their score by 1 point, so keep in mind you are competing against people like that. To help sway you into thinking the cost is worth it though, I will say that these programs are incredibly well done. They are full of professional tutors that do this for a living, so they know the test like the back of their hands. Most importantly, they have data to back them up. Once you take the test, they will actually ask how you did and use that as real evidence to show that their program works. Another downside though is when you pay for these programs, you are paying for a limited resource. In some cases, you will only get access to the resources for a given time frame, and when you tutor, there is a limit on how much you are getting. So not only are the resources limited, but the time availability might be as well. Because you might be working with a tutor, you might not have as much freedom with your schedule. You will have to add it as a reoccurring thing on your calendar at certain times, and if you're an undergrad, that might conflict with your classes or labs. But if you can fit it into your schedule, the study structure they give you is solid. There really isn't much else out there like it. One final note I will make is that doing one of these programs may actually stress you out more and put this overwhelming pressure on you. You may think that since you are paying all this money and putting all this effort into a program, you absolutely have to score near perfect, and if you don't, that means you just failed somehow. I implore you to not think about that when considering these programs, but I know that the worry is out there. It's certainly crossed my mind a few times. To wrap up though, regardless of which strategy you pick when reviewing for the MCAT, the most important thing to keep in your mind is to focus on active studying. It really will take you the furthest in your studies and allow you to excel on test day. No matter what resource you use, remember to focus on what best suits you, not what your classmates or friends tell you to try. Remember, you want to approach this application with the mindset that you will play to all of your own strengths and only choose things that will benefit you personally the most.